Well, Jim, let's take an example. We've just gone through 2 years of a recession. It's been a very tough economy, and here we've had banks approving mortgages. And they used to approve mortgages based on what people told them was their income. And kind of use that or another example dealing with processes, because we all know that some of the people kind of distorted reality when they applied for the mortgage. The company said, well, this is faster because then I don't have to verify documentation. So they actually speeded up the process of approving loans because they didn't have to verify documentation. They actually took people's word for it, and they thought it was good, only to find out, and then they sold those loans so that if the loan did not get paid, they didn't care because the loan was sold on Wall Street. And kind of maybe use that example or a different example of how failing to understand their processes has got them in trouble. And if they would have had a more process focus, maybe they would have understood that this is not the best way to do loan approvals.
Yes, if you look at a process, the purpose of any process is to produce an outcome. And the outcome of a loan process is to be able to loan money to people that will be able to repay the loan. You know, to loan it to people that are never going to be able to repay the loan is very expensive and risky for organizations. So if we had had a proper transparent system, and we have really looked at factors such as what is the variability of interest rates, because when this was going on, interest rates are very low. And if we had looked at the risk of interest rates rising above a very small level, frankly, and then we look at the ability of the people to pay that back, we would have seen that we had a very high risk strategy that worked fine when interest rates are low, but as soon as the bubble burst and interest rates going up, that we inevitably ended up with problems. The same with the process of making sure that we have people who are qualified. If we do not look at the process of qualification, then we can never effectively achieve the outcome we want from that process, which is giving loans to people who can afford those loans.
So I think as we look at processes here in this particular portion of our series, we wanted everyone to understand what are some of the assumptions that are being made as we look at processes. And what we want everyone to understand is that natural forces affect processes, the environment can affect processes that we have, that if we fail to look at processes, what we're going to do is focus on some incorrect factors, or we're not going to focus on some key factors, and this is going to cause us problems in the future. So what we want to do in future tapes is we want to focus on what are some of the process laws that everybody understands, just like you have laws about driving your car, you have laws about getting educations, you have laws about carrying a gun, but we need to understand what are some of the process laws so that we make sure we don't violate those laws as we learn to manage more effectively in the 21st century. So thank you for watching Jim Brimson and myself, John Antos, in our series on business process management, and we look forward to having you come back and hear about the various process laws. Welcome to our series on business process management. My name is John Antos, and this is my good friend Jim Brimson. In some of our previous videos, we talked about why business process management is important. In another video, we talked about some of the assumptions of business process laws. We then had a video where we talked about the definition of a business process. And then today, what we'd like to do is start talking about the different process laws. So the first process law, if you look here at the screen, is that processes are repeatable. So Jim, why do I care if they're repeatable or not? And why is it important to understand that in implementing a business process management system?
Well, process repeatability is critical to understanding the future. It's repeatability that makes a process system forward-looking. Now, all processes are repeatable is, again, just essential to any sort of process system. Because think of if you plant an acorn, you get an oak tree. You don't get a flower, you don't get a hydrangea, you don't get any other type of tree. You get an oak tree. Similarly with man-made processes. A personnel system doesn't help you manage your supply chain. A personnel system is very specific on what it does. So it's the repeatability of processes that make them useful to management. Now, there are several implications. One is the repeatable process providing the outcome that you want? Is the repeatable process cost effective? There are so many aspects, so once we know it's repeatable, then we can take a management action to improve our organization.
Jim, why do you think all processes are repeatable? You know, the stock market goes up and down. It seems like it has no rhyme or reason. Even professionals can't understand it. And sometimes a customer buys from you, and then sometimes they suddenly stop buying from you. So what makes you think that processes are repeatable? And are all processes really repeatable?
Well, actually, the stock market is extremely repeatable in a mechanical sense. People go to the stock market, the floor dealers, who have certain procedures they follow. There's certain computer systems that are followed within it. So it's an extremely repeatable process. What makes it difficult to predict the outcome of a stock market is both initial conditions and the environment you operate in. Every day and every moment, the initial conditions are constantly changing. Another factor is that humans are, if not the most important, clearly one of the most important aspects of the stock market. And human is the most variable of all repeatable processes. So if you look at the stock market in a mechanical sense is repeatable. In an outcome sense, it's harder to understand because you have to delve into the initial conditions and the environment in which it operates and the variability of people that cause the variability of the outcomes of the stock market.
Okay. Well, here we have three implications, and the first implication we have is that process management systems provide an understanding of why results are as reported. Do you want to expand upon that?
Yes, this is, again, one of the crucial elements of the management systems of the future. It is the nature of management that we want to produce a certain result, a certain outcome. So it's clearly important for the actual process, which is repeatable, to be able to produce that result. So if we are merely measuring different results as we do in the current traditional systems, and we don't understand why results are as they have been, reported, then we can't really take an action. So if you delve into the process, not only can you understand why results are what they are, but since processes are repeatable, we can understand the factors that we need to do a better job of controlling so that we are more likely to achieve the outcome that we're looking at.
So the second implication here is that processes are quantifiable and that each stage in the transformation process consumes resources and measurable performance. So in a previous video, we talked about how that we have the main process, but there's different transformation stages in that process. And how do we quantify a process? Are all processes really quantifiable?